I started Surviving Sky with the goal of bringing more awareness to my sister Sky's disappearance. And I thought the best way to do this would be to start a podcast. That way I can really get into the details and bring some humanity to this case. The truth is, I didn't know how to start a podcast. So when I discovered Spotify for podcasters, it had everything I needed. I could record, edit, and then send it out to all the streaming platforms out there. I didn't need to take too much time getting hung up on all the technical aspects. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you have something that you're passionate about and you just feel like you can inform the world about what you know, then why not start a podcast and check out Spotify for podcasters today? I've been sad lately. I've been feeling like shit. Like physically, I'm sick. And I've been going to therapy every week, and I've been really like just pouring it out there. And at one point, I dissociated real bad, and the therapist had me, try to ground myself and come back to the present. But this happens, when I'm going through, when I'm really doing the work. I feel it physically. And it's not just because I also have a 4-year-old who is a petri dish of bacteria and viruses. It probably adds to it. But when I'm feeling depressed, I feel physically sick. And, it just, God, it's like this double-edged sword, because I'm also trying to be as productive as I can. And this is something that we were discussing, is like my need to always have like these goals and accomplishments every day. And there's really no need for it. It's just like this part of my, I think, obsessive nature with feeling accomplished. And, those things have, like these goals have changed. Like sometimes it's just making sure laundry's done and the house is clean, or that I got 600 calories on my Apple Watch. It's things like that these days. But like at the same time, those never feel like enough. I feel like, currently I'm also going through, trying to find some part-time job to help me like get out of the house and get me out of my head. But also be worth getting out of the house and, that part of it. And I'm also like trying to double down on making this content in hopes that maybe this could help me support myself. Because I've been putting myself out there for 2 years, just for free, just, for fun. But it takes its toll, and not getting any job interviews feels like a failure, and not getting any traction with what I'm doing feels like a failure. And today I also sent out an email to the police in Southington, and I've contacted them several times over the past year, just trying to get an update on the DNA being submitted to Interpol. And I go to the Interpol website, and you can't directly contact them. In order to have a yellow notice or a black notice, it needs to be through another, police agency. And I just haven't heard anything. And I'm just like, stuck. In a case like Sky's, there are just so many moments where you feel just so fucking stuck, because you're so dependent on something else to happen, on somebody else to like step in and help you and take the initiative. And I have a hard time asking for help. That is, something I deal with. But when everything kind of feels that way, it's just, it puts you in a bad place. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then on top of that, I had my therapist messaged me last night saying that she's going to be leaving the practice. And that's, I've been with her for about 5 months now. And that is probably the longest I've had one therapist consistently, that I've been going to weekly. And I feel as though we're just finally getting somewhere. And my response was, of course. Of course, maybe I can follow her somewhere else. But at the same time, it's $200 a session. And the financial strain that's happening. I know I'm not alone in this. I see it all around me. Like, the prices of everything have risen exponentially for no reason. It just seems like in the past 6 months or so, everything's gotten out of hand. And I'm looking at, like, just doing my grocery shopping at the dollar store these days. I don't understand. My son, perfect example. So my son gets these Stonyfield yogurts, and we haven't gotten them in a little bit because sometimes he doesn't want them. But in the beginning, before the pandemic and just during the pandemic, they were like $3.99. $3.99 for 4 pouches of yogurt, which already seems like, I feel like, a lot, But now, I went to Target the other day because it's the closest thing that actually carries it, and it's $7.19. And I look at the packs of yogurt, and the shrinkage, the product shrinkage, is also very apparent. It's very watery. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how is this okay? That is, like, a 50% increase in price. For what? I don't know why I'm not okay with this. And I hope you guys aren't okay with this too. I know that's just one example, but I'm sure you can also think of several examples in your own life that have just gotten out of hand. And when it comes to, my therapy being $200 a week, I'm coming to a point where I was going to have to pause it anyway. So there was a part of me that when she sent me that message last night, that I'm like, okay, maybe this will make, a pause on our sessions a little easier to, like, say and deal with. And I think that's part of the issue. It's like me personally, I'm afraid to speak up sometimes, especially when it's for myself. I don't know why I can do it for other people, but I can't do it for myself. And, like, I am just going into debt for therapy to help myself. But the financial strain is, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why I do these things to myself and why I can't be like, well, I can't do this. But to find a cheaper alternative is exhausting. It's like everywhere I go, everywhere I turn, everybody's saying, get, self-help, do what's best for you. But it's more and more impossible to do in what's changing all around us. Everybody's prices are going up, and everybody's broker than ever. Ugh. Anyways, that's what I've been thinking about in the past. Like, every morning I wake up and I have this same, like, sad conversation with my husband about the current state of things. And if you too are listening to this and you're like, yes, this has gotten out of hand, then just believe that you're not alone. And if anybody's telling you different, they're just gaslighting you, because it's, I think, affecting everybody. I'm not too sure what to do about it other than to collectively bitch about it. And if we do that enough, maybe something can change. But I don't know what the action is, because I feel as though we've been just so demoralized and so overwhelmed with everything else that it's just, I understand why nobody has anything left to give. So What else happened in therapy this week? I had initially wanted to cancel my session because my husband had been out of town for the whole week, and I was with my son, and I just doing just like letting all of my trauma out every session has been making me exhausted and physically sick. And I was really tempted to cancel my session this week because I'm like, I've just been with my son alone all week and I'm already run down. But I went, and we kind of just discussed parenting because I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. And that's kind of hard to admit because I want to be there for my son in every capacity. But I am just so spent. I have like nothing left to give. He has my love and my attention, but my patience is thin, you know? I'm not strong enough to not always give in to his demands. And that's not good for either one of us. And having my husband away for the week just was a real eye-opener for me. Because I felt like in the beginning I was better. I was better with him. But I think at every stage with your child growing up and changing, you're going to be challenged, to say the least. You're going to be faced with, what you can handle and what you can't. And I learned that, I'm not good on my own. I need somebody to, bounce off of when I don't know the right things to say to him or the right activities to get him motivated. Because I struggled with that myself, When I'm in a funk, how do I get myself out of it? Because I feel like every time it's different. And so when you're actively trying to work on your own mental well-being while also in the care of somebody else's, you're responsible for somebody else's well-being, that's challenging. It's the biggest challenge I think I've ever faced. I'm up for it, But it's been exposing my weaknesses. And sometimes that's hard. Because even though I'm doing the work to try and be better, I'm always inevitably going to be faced with my own limitations. And this is one of those, I was up all night, most nights that my husband was gone. And I was thinking, I'm if anything were to happen, if I wasn't able to pull my weight for some reason, I would be one of those moms who would give up custody. I was thinking about that. And that was hard to admit to myself that maybe I'm not equipped. That sucks. Because I want to be better. That's all I've ever wanted. I want to be better. And I also think I realized that being alone, and I was able to see just my lack of community as to where I am. My husband and I live, without family, without many friends around, like near us. And we're pretty isolated. And we've been doing well enough. But I don't know if I think it just really cements the fact that you can't do it alone. And we've been alone for a really long time. I've never really found my footing here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has so many, upsides, but then the isolation, just based on like the way the city is structured, is, it's isolating. And so many people here are like transient. So even if you make a friend, they may be gone in a year. So I've known we've been alone, but this past week, it was really in my face. And when you're on a journey of trying to make yourself better, trying to deal with all the other things that are going on in your life, it's not good to be alone. Yeah. Well, this wasn't exactly where I had this episode planned to go. But sometimes I guess a little spiral, a little tangent, I think brings out the honesty that I needed to hear in myself. And I think maybe that's something I will take with me for the rest of the day, and maybe you can too. If we're truly honest with ourselves, if we say the things that we feel like we shouldn't say aloud, if we actually said them aloud, like, what does that mean? I'm not too sure yet, but hopefully, I think it means I need to change. Like, that something needs to change. Well, on that note, this is Therapy Notes, session 4.